Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished colleagues, thanks a lot for joining our webinar today. We'll just give 2 more minutes for participants to settle down. So we thank you for your patience as we see a couple of colleagues joining us. So just give us 2 more minutes and then we will start. Thank you. Okay, so I guess we can now kick off our webinar. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 14th monthly webinar towards COP26 presented for local governments and municipal authorities constituency. My name is Yunus Arikan. I'm the Director of Global Advocacy at ICLE Local Governments for Sustainability. ICLE is the focal point of local governments and municipal authorities constituency to the UNFCCC. This webinar is a series of webinars that we are having monthly towards our members and community of the constituency of LGMA. This webinar lasts usually around 1 hour. This webinar is recorded and uploaded at the LGMA YouTube channel of ICLE. For the sake of a smooth presentation, we usually keep our colleagues, participants on mute at the beginning. Meanwhile, while the webinar or presentation is taking place, you can type your questions if needed. We can try to react immediately, or we can keep in the Q&A session. Usually we are trying to finish our presentations around the 30 minutes or 40 minutes, and then we open the space for question and answer. Today I will be alone in this webinar. We used to have guests in previous rounds, but this time I will be alone. With that in mind, once again, thanks for joining us, and let's start by going through the agenda that we will follow today. For those who are familiar with the LGMA webinars, this agenda will be more or less similar to the previous ones. What we do is we first start with the basics of our UNFCCC advocacy, the who is who and how are we engaged in the UNFCCC process. We will try to give a bit more detail about the virtual engagements nowadays taking place, which is a bit unique and a bit challenging in terms of the complexity and it is new elements, let's say. We usually track our progress, what has happened since our last webinar. So our last webinar was on the 17th of February. So we will have a calendar review of what has happened in between. Then we would like to highlight recall our roadmap towards COP26 with a specific focus on game changers that we have observed over the past couple of days or weeks, which will also give us the direction towards, I guess. We will give you some summary or overview of the applications that were submitted to the UK COP26 blue zone and green zones to the extent we have information about. And we will just go through our tentative planning for COP26, and we will also have a brief overview of the upcoming agendas in the next couple of weeks and months. And that's how we'll run the show at the presentation side. And once again, if you have questions, feel free to ask in the Q&A session or Q&A box in the Zoom channel. So we are in the new era on global climate action through the Paris Agreement. It was adopted in 2015. Why it is a new era? Why it is different from UNFCCC and the Kyoto Protocol, which was already in force and actually climate action since 1995? It's for main reasons as that this is for the first time there is a universal commitment for ambitious action. This is a commitment that is shared by not just national governments, and not just specific group of national governments in terms of responsibility, but all national governments have agreed some common goals, and they, for the first time, also acknowledged that it is not anymore a responsibility of local national governments, but there are other stakeholders, other levels of governments in board. They have adopted a clear target of 1.5-degree goal, which is significantly a game changer in the sense that the transformation we needed for 1.5-degree goal is significant. This gives us a huge opportunity, but acknowledgement of this is also a good, let's say, driver for us to enforce structural changes in our systems. And of course, climate neutrality is enshrined explicitly by mid-century as the most important goal to achieve 1.5-degree goals. Obviously, in time, we still have to remove more of the emissions in the atmosphere in order to keep a 1.5-degree goal. But in order to start with this level of progress, we have to make sure, first of all, we make a clear balance in our emissions and removals. So, and hopefully we will expand our carbon sinks, which is oceans and forest area, but climate neutrality in our human systems is a priority for this one. What does it mean overall? Why we're so excited about the next COP in Glasgow? First of all, we are aware the national governments, the ones that we are talking about there, NDCs, the national determined contributions, none of them are fit for Paris Agreement. Why? Because all of these Paris Agreement related commitments or NDCs are in fact prepared before these principles, before Paris Agreement was adopted. So none of those national governments were aware of these, let's say, principles that will be the basis of their commitments. So literally, there is a need that we should ask for every national government to prepare a new NDC, new national determined contributions, before COP26. And that means that the real success of Glasgow depends on work at home. And that is a key prerequisite to be calling COP26 in Glasgow a success. Second one, we have a very powerful preambular paragraph in the Paris Agreement for the first time recognizes the importance of engagement of all levels of government. This gives us a huge responsibility. Over the past years, ICLE has been in this climate and city space for more than 30 years now. We have been pushing this agenda for a long while. For most of our periods, this was a voluntary action. We were encouraging our members, or we were proud of our members doing this, taking actions across the world. But with the Paris Agreement, it's not anymore a voluntary task. It is an official duty of local and regional governments. Therefore, every council decision, every administration strategic plan, we have to put the Paris Agreement principles into its core of it, so that we can ensure we deliver our responsibility as we have been recognized in the way we have asked for. And other stakeholders, obviously, it's not just local and regional governments, business, youth groups, the women groups, obviously trade unions, all partners recognized under the Agenda 21 and more. They have to step up. They have to deliver also their duty. But we also have to make sure all these transformations should also be the benefits of a new civilization should be shared by all, that those who are left behind because of structural changes, be it employment, be it economical income, that they should also be offered the resources that will be offered with the new type of civilization, low carbon economy that we will be. This is particularly the case where the regions and cities are dependent on coal, and that they're struggling to transform to a green economy, so that these societies are not left behind. The more we can encourage them to embrace this new transition, we can make the success story. We can make that it is a just transition. So for those who are familiar with the climate process, this is a cyclic process. Every year, at the end of the year, one of the national governments are elected as the president. This is usually defined by the regional group that they are belonging to, and it's a rotation period. So one with rotation process, rotated process. Once it's Latin America, then goes to Africa, Europe, Asia, and the cycle continues. And it's usually the practice that those who host the event also take the responsibility for the lead as the political responsibility. But there are some exceptions. One was in the Bonn case in the Germany. It was Fiji, a small island state. Physically, event was hosted in Bonn. And in 2019, we know Chile was supported by Spain, that Chile is the political host, but Spain is the physical host. So, and the next host is also prepared as the designated or incoming presidency. So as of today, all the decisions that comes from 2019 COP25 is under the responsibility of the Chilean government and led by the Minister of Environment of Chile, Carolina Schmidt. And she is also supported by his high-level climate action champion, Gonzalo Munoz. In the welcoming part or the incoming part, we have the UK government. It is represented by Alok Sharma, who is now, since the beginning of the year, full-time reserving his time for the COP business, but still being part of the UK cabinet. He's supported by a huge list of advisors. And the UK government also introduced a new type of engagement. They have created several councils, several bodies, advisory bodies, both at the national but also global level. This is this is a result of their aim to demonstrate that COP26 will be the most inclusive COP. So this is a unique experience. So there's already a Friends of COP, Mayor of Los Angeles, as C40 Chair is part of it since May 2020. But over time, we have seen Cities and Regions Advisory Council was established, civil society youth advisory bodies established, and devolved administrations body is also there. And there are other processes like regular meetings of the negotiators with the constituency focal points, where ICLE is also part of it in this group. And what happens in between these things, there is a period which is usually middle of the year, which is May or June. The negotiators come together in Bonn, the seat of the UNF Secretariat, and they prepare the outcomes. Obviously, this year's, let's say, we are having a unique process that we don't have negotiations over the past 2 years, and we still don't know how the process will be taken up, whether it's virtual or in-person meetings. Conditions of the pandemic is still challenging, and the negotiators have not been agreeing to the extent of how they will start any virtual process as well. So we are waiting and seeing in that process. That's why we are showing this chart, which is a traditional, if it is a typical physical COP, let's say. We had main elements. We had processes like side events, submissions, workshops, and our dialogue with the Friends of Multi-Level Action. And we had the priorities of the presidency and the LGMA, the constituencies, the network of local energy groups have their own, let's say, priorities as well. However, because now for the past year, we were not able to follow a physical process, and it is still not clear how we will be preparing for COP, we are now working on a virtual advocacy mode. When we say virtual, we're still aware that there's no negotiations as such, and then in terms of decision making is taking place in the UN climate change space. Whereas we know there are several processes like UN Environment Assembly or UN New York General Assembly, or even a sister organization or sister process called Convention on Biological Diversity. Even they are also having some decisions adopted virtually, but the UNFCCC is not there yet. We all know there are certain dynamics. Therefore, we are trying to accompany how the UNFCCC is leading this process. So under these conditions, there are three main, let's say, drivers or processes that we are following up. One, under the regular bodies, the subsidiary bodies, there is regular meetings. These are still virtual and in consultative process. There's a list of those activities, and interestingly, some of them have a different registration process, some of them have different access, and some of them have different, let's say, intervention opportunities. There are other processes like climate technology transfer, or capacity building bodies, or adaptation fund, or workshop on Warsaw International Mechanism. So each of them have their own mechanisms, and we are able to intervene as LGMA to the extent possible. There is a new group of events being led by presidencies. This is called monthly consultations. And the presidency has made a list of topics that they believe it will be a priority for negotiations or for consultations. This is depending on the choice of the presidency. And this has also its own unique process. And one of the important things, all these consultations as of today are only open for the parties. So we as observers, we used to participate in the subsidiary body processes. For the moment, for the monthly consultations of the presidents, we are not allowed. We are in touch with the presidency, especially COP25 and COP26, to communicate our inputs, but we are also looking or encouraging them to open the space so that we can also participate into these consultations in a regular or an appropriate modality. We are still hoping that there may be new outcomes in this process. This monthly consultation is one track. The second track is that presidency has its unique priority list, as we have shown before. It is 5 themes. Let's recall that. It is the resilience and adaptation, nature, energy transition, clean road transport, and finance. So for all these sessions or themes, presidency is running special campaigns, and they are running special mobilization events, which is high-level meetings. One of them you can call, for example, in 2020, December, on the Paris Agreement anniversary, there was a major summit at the heads of state level. In early January, there was a climate adaptation summit, which was again supported by the presidency. The next big event will be the Climate and Development Ministerial. This will be on the 31st of October. And this follows from the context that Climate Ambition Summit raised or generated a huge momentum, but climate vulnerable communities, the international solidarity, the financing opportunities are still have to be clarified, have to be developed. So this Climate and Development Ministerial is aiming to address these concerns. Unfortunately, we as LGMA at the moment are not actively involved in the consultation process or let's say preparation process for that. The presidency has subcontracted a consortium of NGOs. They have run some workshops, roundtables. We were only able to attend one last of them as an observer, so it was not easy to interact. And we are also aware that on the 31st of March, we will still be receiving a limited observer, let's say, ticket. This doesn't mean that we will be able to intervene. While we're invited to send written comments, it's still not clear whether we will be having a verbal intervention into process. Well, these kind of things are always up to last-minute changes. We still hope we can make some space for us. But in the meantime, if any of the LGMA constituency members or partners are involved in this process, we are more than happy to hear their experience, because so far we didn't receive even the list of participants of these sessions. So there's a third group of mobilization or engagement opportunity. This is the Marrakesh Partnership. Marrakesh Partnership is a combination of the UNFCCC Secretariat. It's mandated from the Paris Agreement, but also the high-level climate action champions of the presidencies, which is Chile and UK. And obviously, over the last 12 months, they have run an enormous mobilization through Race to Resilience, Race to Zero. And then now we're also talking about breakthroughs. So this process a bit more, let's say, inclusive. There is much more opportunities, especially for those organizations who are involved as partners of this process. Therefore, you can follow announcements like the new entries to Race to Zero or submissions for Race to Resilience. And this is also supported by the champions or by the UNFCCC process as well. So we are trying to find ourselves, navigate ourselves into this complex, significantly challenging, both in terms of numbers and the mechanisms, different type of mechanisms, but it is essential. Therefore, we are hoping that the process will be improving even better on the days ahead. So what has been observed in the last 3 or 4 weeks? It was a pretty active agenda. On the day we had our last call of webinar, 17th of February, the Tokyo Metropolitan Government has convened an impressive time to action. It was a short 1 hour focused, but very high level, very strong in terms of outcomes and announcements. That was a remarkable moment. Meanwhile, our partner organization, Commonwealth Local Government Forum, they also announced their contribution to the Commonwealth local government Commonwealth community, which will convene in June at their summit in Kigali, as one of those organizations that is constituted by the ministers and local government networks within the Commonwealth. CLGF has as a unique opportunity to share our messages, and we're very happy that this document also refers to climate action prominently. On the 23rd of February, we have witnessed the UN Security Council for 3.5 hours for the first time at the heads of state level. There were no local representatives there, but it was an important opportunity that the debate at that level is giving us the confidence that the climate agenda will be even evolving further. A day after, we were excited and were proud to witness the closing event of the Youth for Climate process that is led by the Italian pre-COP team. And that was a series of webinars, but this last one was a dialogue with the local leaders and a dialogue of youth to the local action. And in that sense, we were proud to have two prominent leaders, Mayor of Milan and Mayor of Recife. Milan is because they're already host of pre-COP, so obviously they're also contributing to Urban 20 this year. And they're also very active in C40 network. But Recife was also a recommendation from ICLE in the sense that Recife is one of those shining or rising stars in the global south. For example, they are the first city in Brazil who have declared a climate emergency, and a year later, that was in 2019, they have adopted climate neutrality targets as well for 2050. And because of the strong connection to youth, there's also a strong relevance because the recently elected mayor of Recife is the youngest Brazilian capital city mayor, and he's 28 years old. And that was a very nice demonstration that the youth engagement to the local politics is really introducing a new opportunity, and that it is not just Fridays for Futures as on the streets, but their interaction with the councils can give them also to be more actively involved in the local policy making. So therefore, we are proud of our mayor of Recife as one of the youngest mayors around the world as well. And that is also giving us the power that at the pre-COP in Italy, we can seek for more active collaboration with youth communities. A day after, we were waiting for an outcome from the Bureau meeting of COP25. This is 11 national governments representing their region. These are the ones who are together with the presidency, are the ones who are deciding on the modalities in between the COPs. There was a huge expectation from many partners, including the UN Secretary General, that this group, when they met in February, they would kick off a process so that virtual negotiations can start to take place so that we can prepare towards COP in time. Unfortunately, they could not agree on the modality. There were strong concerns expressed on access, equal participation, time zones, availability of internet connections, which are all valid, of course. But we were expecting that all these concerns could be addressed with technology and the resources of the UN. However, that meeting did not result in that, let's say, debate. They are still exploring, and we look forward to their next meeting in the next couple of days. And that obviously have influenced a bit the discussion in the climate community, let's say. In the next couple of days, we have seen from German development partner institution, GIZ, releasing an important multi-level action paper. A day after, UN Climate Change Secretariat released an NDC synthesis report, which was a warning signal because the current NDC submissions were not enough to reach to, not even close to what we were expecting to. They only are resulting in 1% of emission reduction, whereas we're asking for 45. But obviously, there is no NDC yet from Japan, from Korea. Their NDCs are not designed yet. They are not submitted. They are all committing to 2050, but we don't know yet how they will do it. So this NDC synthesis report doesn't address these contributions. Therefore, it is good that the world should be on alert, but it's also the more in the next couple of months, we could expect some more, hopefully, positive announcements. On the same day, there was Regional Climate Week's kickoff. That will be taking place, real climate weeks will be regionally taking place around summer in Latin America, Asia and Africa, Asia and Pacific. And this was just an, let's say, teaser. Let's say it was 2 sessions in 2 different time zones, but we were very happy that our partners like UCLG Africa or Argentinian Network of Cities for Climate Change, RMCC, they were there interacting with the parties and the stakeholders at the highest level, demonstrating once again local governments as a strong partner of the process. We have submitted and we have worked a lot collectively for this expressions of interest for UK. I will come to that. On the 8th of March, there was an important moment where the biodiversity process, which is a sister multilateral environmental agreement as part of the Rio Conventions, as the legacy of the Earth Agenda 1992, they have kicked off their own virtual meetings, and there is an official document as the Secretariat's paper is supported by or sponsored by the UK government in collaboration with the Scottish government, a document that is called a draft action plan for the cities and subnationals, including Edinburgh Declaration and results of the Edinburgh process, as well as building on the legacy of the past 12 years of implementation of the Nagano Action Plan on biodiversity. This will be, we will go into this in a moment, but this is a very, very important process and progress, and we hope that could also inspire action at the UNSCS level. On the 15th of March, UK COP26 Advisory Council of Regions and States, cities get together with Alok Sharma, the COP26 president. We expect this consultation will continue, especially after the UK municipal elections on the 6th of May. But what we are aware, they're already planning for a leaders summit in summertime, which will be supported by another partner organization of the LGMA, which is UK 100. They will be actively doing on that. On the 17th of March, we have been working a lot. This for us was the biggest day for LGMA in the first half of 2021. Japan government, in collaboration with UNFCCC, IGES and ICLE, hosted the Zero Carbon City Forum. We will go into that details in a moment. But on the same day, we also have seen the Coalition for Urban Transition also released their global report for COP26, which is with a specific focus on 6 countries across the world: China, India, Mexico, South Africa, Indonesia, and Brazil, on how national governments can trigger climate action at the local level, or vice versa, actually. But it is aiming to create this atmosphere that multi-level action could be helping both national governments, but also local governments, and also raise ambition. And the day after, we heard from REN21, another sister organization. They released their Renewables in Cities report, which is now making headlines in a number of processes, which is a strong demonstration of the transition to net zero is strongly supported, or like essential if it is connected to 100% renewable use as well. So now I would like to recall now, if you look at all these changes in the global process, this shows that the roadmap we adopted in Madrid, which is strengthened by an additional contribution by Glasgow on climate justice, this is covering significantly all the elements that is on the table. So I think what we are confident that the more we act on these areas, the 7 pillars, and the 8th one, which is the mobilization, participation, now this year is more important, we can definitely provide inputs to the negotiations. Let's recall, what are these 7 pillars? In fact, we're talking about 3 main areas. One, on the NDCs, or actually, let's say, Paris Agreement, both raising ambition, but also multi-level action. Second, independent from climate negotiations, action is going on. We have COVID recovery process, we have nature, we have circularity, we have buildings, so that this huge world of climate action is still going on, and it's even accelerated because many national governments are discussing their COVID recovery or redesign processes, and our goal is to make sure climate action is embedded in the heart of these recovery processes, or recovery processes are taking into account the national contributions, so that these two can strengthen each other, so that we can generate the momentum that we need. Obviously, the third element, that we want to expand the diversity of climate actors especially contributing to the COP process. And one of the key processes we were asking for was an urbanization ministerial. If you recall what happened just a couple of weeks in the past 3 or 4 weeks, we feel there is an important momentum being built. It's what we call as game changers. What do we mean by game changers? First of all, we are excited for 22nd of April. This is traditionally the Earth Day. It is the legacy of the US activists 50 years ago, but it is celebrated worldwide. This year, it is particularly important because the US federal government has already announced that they will release their NDC on that date, and there will be a special leaders summit hosted by Joe Biden as the US president. Therefore, we're expecting this creating a new momentum, and we are already seeing an interaction at the US level. Our colleagues, C40 US Conference of Mayors, all the relevant parties are in touch with both the team of Gina McCarthy, who is leading the drafting of the NDC, but also John Kerry, the special envoy. So it's a dynamic moment in the US, and we are expecting that if all goes well, if all what we have been discussed comes true, the US NDC could be one of the most important good practices for multi-level NDC. Meanwhile, because of the Biden summit, we are hearing a number of national governments are also prepared to make an announcement on that date, which gives us the hope. For example, countries like Japan, we will go to the Japan case in a moment, that it will not be just limited to US, but it will be a major shift, a major leapfrog in terms of ambition, and in particular on multi-level action. If this happens, we could be much more courageous, which we could be much more prominently expecting a good result towards COP26. And our dream to make COP26 a multi-level action COP could be much more possible to materialize. Therefore, 22nd of April will definitely be a game changer. Second is the biodiversity agenda. Again, going to the details about the importance is that it is not just the document that is being discussed, but it is also the sponsors are important. It is the UK government and Scottish government. They are also the host of COP together. So an inspirational, a very solid outcome from biodiversity process could be inspirational for Glasgow outcomes as well. Therefore, we are seriously in touch with the negotiators, the teams of the UK and Scottish government, so that they can make benefit of this fantastic synergy and very ambitious agenda in the biodiversity space, so that we can bring back some lessons or some impacts to the UK, to the climate space in Glasgow. Third, this was one of the outcomes of the Japan Zero Carbon Forum. In the UN space, the urbanization is coordinated by UN Habitat as the focal point, UN Agency for Habitat or Urbanization, you can call it. For the first time during their intervention, the Japan Zero Carbon City Forum, the Deputy Executive Director of UN Habitat officially announced that they are embracing the idea of an urbanization ministerial at COP26 or towards COP26. Obviously, this is also strongly discussed by other UN agencies like UN Environment, UN Development, and many others. Therefore, having a lead UN agency to embrace this is something that we are very, very excited. We believe in the next couple of weeks, there will be some certain efforts to make this possible so that we can introduce urbanization ministers or ministers of interior or ministers of housing to an interaction with ministers of environment, in addition to what's going on with ministers of energy, finance, agriculture, trade. You can imagine that these are hardcore mitigation, let's say, focused ministries, and having ministries like urbanization, ministers of education, ministers of culture, also part of the Glasgow debate or COP agenda, will empower those who are seeking for more ambitious action, because historically these part of the administration and the government are also very closely connected to the climate agenda and an ambitious climate action. Therefore, we feel it will not be anymore national governments against civil society or national governments against local and regional governments. No, there are different ministers, and the responsibility of COP should be to hear all of those ministers and then come up with the implementation plan in the NDCs and the guidance from COP26 outcomes. That's why we are excited of these game changers, which gives us to be much more confident than what we used to be like 3 months ago or 3 weeks ago. Sorry. Just example again. Here is a very snapshot, a bird's eye view of the Zero Carbon City Forum in Japan last week. You can see the opening remarks already was very high level with Minister Koizumi, Patricia Espinosa, Executive Secretary, and John Kerry with a video message. And we know, we heard, and we are informed that John Kerry and Minister Koizumi also had a very special bilateral dialogue before and after this forum. This is giving us the confidence that the states and cities in the US and the Japanese zero carbon cities, net zero cities and prefectures could really be introducing a new momentum, and the leadership by US and Japan could really introduce a new momentum to the global agenda of local climate action and raising ambitions of the national government. As you have seen, we cannot list all the names here, but all these around 30 local and regional governments across the world were represented at the minister, mayor, governor level, and that was a unique moment of interaction. And definitely Japanese government hosting of this event was a remarkable example of leadership on collaborative and multi-level climate action. Let me give you one example why it is so important. In just a couple of months, in less than 24 months, Japan, through the ambitious leadership of Minister of Environment, and particularly a personal passion by Minister Koizumi, they reached 300 local and regional governments, cities and prefectures across Japan, representing 100 million, which is 80% of Japanese population, are now governed by governments who have committed to net zero targets by 2050. Obviously, that was a remarkable, let's say, input to the Japanese government, where when Prime Minister announced 2050 targets of climate neutrality for Japan in October 2020. And just a couple of days before the Net Zero Forum, the Japanese Prime Minister office has released a 3 minute video on the story of Japanese net zero cities and prefectures. Obviously, the fact that this is released by the Prime Minister of Japan gives us the confidence that this agenda is embraced by the whole government or whole of government approach in Japan. And Minister Koizumi, around these dates, was also appointed as Minister of Climate Change. This gives him much more power to reach out to other ministers and to promote that local commitments, prefectures, cities, their net zero targets could be now embedded into the NDC. Therefore, the current NDC of Japan could be much, much, much scaled up with intermediate targets of 2030. And we are very, very excited that this will be this will be setting an important precedent to many countries around the world, so that they will be inspired with this Japanese example. This is the biodiversity document. You can see the screenshots. You can see the link here. It is around 20-page document, but it is, as we said, it is not a submission from ICLE or Regions 4 or Scottish Government. It is an official CBD Secretariat document as a part of the negotiation agenda. It is sponsored by one of the parties, which is the UK government. That's why this document is much, much powerful than any of those submissions that you have ever seen, be it in the UNFCCC, be it in the CBD. And of course, this has a history. This document, then this Edinburgh process, deals on 12 years of active engagement minimum in the CBD process. And obviously, it has a draft decision, it has a draft action plan, which complements or advances the current action plan. We do not expect exactly similar thing to be seen in the climate space, but having an experience and a precedence at the UN, another UN process, especially a very important sister process, could give us to be more ambitious and to be much more aggressive to push for a decision or a COP specific paragraph that is an outcome of Glasgow. For example, encouraging parties to embrace multi-level action as a default, as a new normal, that it is not just only voluntary by national governments, but it is the new normal under the Paris Agreement second phase. So that is why we are so excited as these game changers. Now we are going to the COP preparations. here you can see the list of applications. I mean, let's say the numbers of applications. It is impressive. We are talking about thousands of applications for these 5 thematic areas, and hundreds of applications on Citizen Built Environment Day, and it's around dozens and dozens of cities and regions or their networks leading these applications. In that sense, we are very, very happy that the local government and municipal authorities constituency are among those pioneers. According to the information we received or that reached to us, we have around 30 applications from the members of the LGMA constituency. And as you can see, it constitutes 1/3 of all the submissions from networks and all the others. And actually, the more we hear the details, the more we can be making the matching. So we encourage LGMA members to fill in the shared file that we have created so that we can track this better. Obviously, how many of those will be selected to be displaced or will be presented in the UK zones? We don't know this yet. And obviously, even the UK government doesn't know it, because it is still not clear how much it will be possible for international visitors to come to Glasgow, if they're allowed, what are the conditions, what precautions they should have, whether this will be accessible by the partners, not just negotiators, but also the observers. You may recall just a couple of days ago, the Tokyo Olympics Committee or the International Olympics Committee, in relation to Tokyo Olympics, have announced that Tokyo Olympics will be convened, but without any international funds. This can create a precedent to the COP as well. What will be the level of the recognition of observers as part of the official delegation? We will see. But this is serious in concerns. Therefore, we are still cautious that it is still not clear how much physical presence we will be achieving. We all know we are still working in the logic of the past COPs. So we will have presence in Blue Zone, and we are aiming for a huge presence in the Blue Zone. This will be the first time since 2009 Copenhagen. We will continue our engagement on deliberations, interventions, and action zone. We will continue in the presidency green zone, and the city of Glasgow and Scottish government will also continue to host or welcome us. So this 3-way of engagement, the Blue Zone, in particular, LGMA-led pavilion and interventions and side events, the Green Zone, which is led by the host government and parties, and the Glasgow, which is Glasgow Zone, which is Glasgow and Scottish government, will still be the case. How sequenced will be, what will be the time of peak days, when will be the moment where we'll have our cities and regions leaders summit, we still don't know yet. Therefore, we have to be alerted, and we have to still wait for some announcements from UNFCCC and UK partners. With this is my last slide. In the next couple of days, we are expecting some new dates. For example, as we have seen, the Earth Day will be a major event. We will see the G7 summit also in June. In July, Leaders Summit of UK governments will be there. U20, Urban 20 has announced their new dates. We will be celebrating UN Decade for Ecosystem Restoration, G20 Climate Summit. The Biodiversity COP is announced for the late October, and the whole Urban October will be an opportunity for us to raise the importance of multi-level action. In fact, this year it is a huge opportunity because just days before COP starts, we can really create a pressure and a recognition and awareness on multi-level action being the heart of the multi-level collaboration and the UN space, and that Glasgow could be a milestone to make this as a new normal. With this, I'd like to conclude. It's already 45 minutes that I have been speaking to you. I know it's not easy to follow such long speeches, but in any case, I appreciate your attendance and interest. I would like to encourage that we can now open the floor for any questions and answers that you may wish to share. You can either type in the box, question and answer box, or you can also unmute yourself and intervene directly. I see no hands so far. Anthony, longtime colleague from WWF. Please, Anthony, the floor is yours.
Thanks. Hi, Yunus. Just a question. I saw that you listed daring cities for 2021. So just wanted to, if you could confirm that that'll be happening. That's good news, I think.
Thank you, Anthony. Yes, we are seriously committed to host daring cities also in the second year. We are still in touch with our partners, City of Bonn, State of North Rhine-Westphalia, BMU, the German Minister of Environment, and German Minister of Development Cooperation, DMZ. We are still trying to align ourselves with the global agenda, but it is highly likely that we will aim to have it in Urban October. This is as part of the Urban October. But I'm not entitled to announce specific dates and format yet. This is still a work in progress. But it is very, very likely that we will have it in October, very likely in the first half of October. Thank you, and look forward to contribution of WWF, One Planet City Challenge, and other partners of WWF. Any additional inputs, questions, remarks? Colleagues, you're more than welcome to take your turn either by raising your hand or type in the Q&A box. I don't see too much hands being raised or interventions being planned so far. We have one input from our participant, Ana Claudia Marinero Centeno Rosbach. Thank you, Yunus. This presentation was very useful. Any more insight on the urban ministerial? I will just, thanks, Anna. Now I can easily recall with the Cities Alliance. Urbanization Ministerial, as we said, Anna, Cities Alliance is one of our active partners in this space of community of urban and urban actors, and especially on resilience, they are very active and involved. At the moment, we have seen at first green light that UN Habitat is seriously thinking about it. As we said, there was an announcement from the Deputy Executive Director during the Japan Forum. We are in touch with our partners, with other UN agencies, UN Environment Program and UNDP. You may recall last year, ICLE, UCLG, and GCOM, together with the three other UN agencies, we have started a ministerial mayor dialogues. We are seriously considering that this group will also support or endorse this, and we're even looking for other partners like OECD, National Urban Policies, Coalition for Urban Transition, ISOCARP. So a number of other partners are still watching this space. I think in the next couple of weeks, we can come back with more announcement on that. But I feel there's a very strong appetite from all partners. And we also would like to, of course, have engagement from the presidency. I cannot speak too much on the details, but I'm confident that there will be a milestone engagement this year. Let's hope that we can make the best out of it. And we look forward to your support, of course, as Cities Alliance. Neda from Barcelona. Greetings, Neda. This is great to see your contribution. Meanwhile, while I'm reading you, I also would like to acknowledge that early this year, Barcelona, in addition to their climate neutrality commitments, they also declared a climate emergency at the municipal council level. So congratulations, Barcelona. Neda is asking when will be the next webinar? And please count on Barcelona for pre-COP and COP26 at the highest level, mayor, deputy mayor, councillor, and at the technical level. Definitely, Neda, I'm sorry I couldn't respond to your email a couple of weeks before, but I'm very happy that you're following closely. Yes, we count on Barcelona as one of the front runners of Race to Zero and all the elements of climate adaptation, especially climate justice, just transition. The next webinar for COP will be in LGMA webinar on the 21st of April. We're trying to make it every third, around third Wednesdays, but next month it will be 21st of April. And definitely we will look forward to welcome Barcelona, especially as we have seen in the calendar. We are expecting there will be moments for announcements of Race to Zero, announcements on resilience, and also a specific agenda with Glasgow, host city, who is very actively connected to Barcelona as a European city as well, on especially climate justice and other elements of climate activities, so that we can have a cities and regions summit or gathering. With or physically or virtually, we definitely will look forward to welcoming Barcelona, and because you have been a long time present in all these journeys of the cities and regions, not only just climate, but also in the biodiversity space as well. So thank you, and we'll take those of your presence. Well, fantastic. Barcelona is also the world capital on sustainable food in 2021. Actually, it was good that you reminded us, because I think you will be engaging actively in the UN Food System Summit in September. I also encourage you to connect to this agenda. Both ICLE and C40 and UCLG are actively following this process. So definitely there are a lot of contributions from Barcelona expected there. Yes, Anna is also thanking us for the urbanization and expressing the commitment of Cities Alliance. Definitely, we take note of it, and we will work on that. And I think Cities Alliance is one of those who also have submitted a very powerful expression of interest. So we are, as we said, repeatedly mentioning that we are committed to have a blue zone pavilion. We don't know the space, I mean, the size, we don't know the duration, but for sure our aim is to make throughout the COP a blue zone pavilion of LGMA. And in case there are any events that has turned down or any additional ideas, we look forward to hosting them in the LGMA pavilion, which will be moderated on behalf of ICLE traditionally in the past years, but with a collective group of partners. As you have seen for the LGMA roadmap, we're already collaborating with a number of partners. So we will look forward to developing a good model. Watch out, we were trying to make some announcement in the next couple of days or maximum a couple of weeks on that front as well. So definitely we'll work with you. Great, thanks for all your remarks and inputs. Any additional inputs from the participants of the webinar? You're more than welcome. If not, we always have the luxury to save our time and use this precious minutes, so that before going on to our next appointment, we can refresh ourselves or focus on our emails, or have some refreshment, or even connect to our families if we're at home, or have an aeration in our office spaces if you're at home. If not, we can announce that this session is almost now closed, and I think that's good now that we reached to this digestion now. I'd like to once again thank all of you. I would recommend you to stay in touch with our updates and share any information, especially submissions for green zone and blue zones. Feel free to complete this file. We will be sharing with you updates regularly through LGMA mailing list. Feel free to share this with our partners, and we look forward to meeting with you on the 21st of April. And with this, have a nice day, evening, and afternoon, wherever you are, and stay safe. That is the most important priority. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.